In the heart of one of the wealthiest cities in America, where towers shine and streets are filled with tourists, there exists a place that no one talks about. Amidst smoke, despair, and pain, a region known in Boston as Mass and Cass. If you think hell is only found in stories, you need to see this place. A location where people gradually evaporate in the shadows of skyscrapers. This video is a journey into the darkest corners of Boston, where the boundary between humanity and survival has blurred, and even the police have lost hope. When we talk about Boston, many people's minds fill with images of prestigious universities, clean streets, and classic architecture. Harvard, MIT, the history of the American Revolution. These are the images that draw tourists to this city. However, just a few blocks away from this urban brilliance lies a place that seems detached from time and order. The Mass and Cass area. This point, a blend of Massachusetts Avenue and Cass Street, represents the heart of the homelessness and severe addiction crisis in Massachusetts. As a social YouTuber, I decided to take my camera to exactly where journalists, politicians, and even security forces often visit reluctantly, and only to maintain a semblance of order. From the moment I set foot on those streets, I felt as though I had entered another world. The air in Boston, usually known for its ocean scent or the aroma of coffee shops, was dense and heavy in this area. The smell of drugs, particularly fentanyl and crystal meth, hung in the air, woven into the fabric of the environment. Tents and dirty blankets, desperate attempts to create shelter against the chilly nights of New England, line the sidewalk. The police presence in Mass and Cass is evident, but it resembles more of a constant surveillance of a quarantined area rather than a deterrent force or aid. Officers, who themselves are under immense psychological pressure, often describe the situation as hopeless. One officer, who wished to remain anonymous, admitted, "If someone in this area doesn't have access to their substances, within a few hours, they will be involved in violence related to withdrawal or theft to meet their needs." We are essentially the guards of a prison where the inmates don't even want to come out because the outside is more lethal for them. The situation is so dire that even the police confess they no longer know what to do. Any simple interaction, from asking about an empty bottle to objecting to sidewalk obstruction, can escalate into severe physical conflict or even gunfire. But why has a city like Boston, with such historical wealth and economic potential, with its extensive university and financial resources, reached such a point? The answer lies hidden within the worn layers of the social system. The housing crisis in America, particularly in large coastal cities, has reached a peak. Rents have skyrocketed, and financial pressures have forced thousands from the middle and lower classes onto the streets. These individuals, often having fallen off the edge due to chronic illness or job loss, are now trapped in this whirlpool. Social policies addressing this crisis, especially regarding mental health and addiction treatment, have proven severely ineffective. Addiction treatment centers have been at full capacity for months, and the wait list for government assistance can sometimes stretch into years. Election promises regarding reforming homelessness and creating suitable shelters. On a cold day, I managed to speak briefly with a woman named Tracy, who appeared to be around 50 years old. She was one of those trying to maintain a semblance of her past dignity, although her clothes bore the marks of months spent living in the rain. As she attempted to sip the hot tea given to her by a volunteer, her voice cracked as she said, "I was a teacher, high school math. My husband, a skilled worker, died 2 years ago from cancer. The insurance ran out, and the rent suddenly doubled. I couldn't keep up. I became disabled. After that, it was just a fall." Her words broke my heart. She continued, "People don't fall here because they're lazy or lack willpower. They fall because the system has abandoned them, right at the moment they needed it most." This conversation reminded me that Mass and Cass is not merely a gathering place for addicts and the homeless. It is a graveyard where society's marginalized are buried. During filming, I witnessed things that no camera, no matter how well lit, could fully convey the pain and weight of. A man willing to stand in the cold for hours to sell his new expensive shoes for a few dollars to secure his next dose. A woman who spent the night next to a small fire lit with plastic and cardboard, holding on to the vain hope that the warmth of the fleeting flames might ease her bone-chilling cold. Groups of individuals who voluntarily live in lawlessness and a quasi-tribal space because they have lost trust in the order of the city or official institutions. Mass and Cass is not just a confined geographical area. It serves as a metaphor for what America, with all its promises of success and freedom, does not want to show its citizens. This metaphor paints a picture of structural failures in social policies, public health, and wealth distribution. Amid this constant chaos and prevailing negative energy, some volunteers and small grassroots groups strive to keep a semblance of humanity alive. Groups made up of ordinary people, sometimes medical students, local social activists, and even those with personal experiences of addiction, regularly distribute hot meals, blankets, and most importantly, overdose prevention kits, naloxone. They are the silent angels of these dark streets. However, the pressure of the crises is so immense that their efforts, though honorable, seem like a drop in a sea of anger, addiction, and pain. They must constantly grapple with violence, theft of aid, and the indifference of government officials. Every time I raised my camera to capture these scenes, the false and staged smiles of Boston, as promoted in travel brochures, crumbled in my mind. Here in the heart of one of the most modern and wealthy cities in America, a reality unfolds that no tourist pamphlet dares to mention. Mass and Cass is a mirror, a fractured image of a civilization that is slowly and steadily collapsing under the burdens of exorbitant living costs, hidden racism, chronic economic injustice, and ineffective policies toward its most vulnerable citizens. As I reviewed the footage, I realized that this story is not just confined to one corner of Boston. Dozens of other cities across America, from the glass hills of Los Angeles to the abandoned areas of Chicago, contain smaller, perhaps even worse, versions of this human tragedy. Streets filled with tents, discarded syringes, wounded bodies, and empty eyes that hold no hope. What we see in Mass and Cass is a preview of a dark future that may spread to other parts of the country and even to more developed communities worldwide if no fundamental solutions are devised. As a social YouTuber, my mission is not only to capture a snapshot, it is to amplify voices. The voices of those who are no longer heard by official structures or who do not wish to be heard. Mass and Cass became a deep wound for me, but a wound that managed to awaken me. A wound that needs to be seen, acknowledged, and discussed, so that perhaps a remedy can be found for its healing. At the end of the recording, while the filming crew was gathering equipment, I stood next to police officers and firefighters, waiting to transport one of the injured. One of the officers, having witnessed all the scenes, muttered bitterly, "We are just watching now." And this may be the most painful sentence I heard throughout this long journey into the heart of darkness. Silently watching the collapse of humanity in one of the wealthiest places in the world. This video is not merely an entertaining documentary. It is a serious invitation to see, think, and ask hard questions. Because until our eyes are opened and reality is acknowledged, no change will occur on a large scale. We must see, understand, and act. If you have stayed with me this far and managed to endure these images and truths, you likely can no longer view the typical glossy picture of Boston. Mass and Cass is not just a geographical point. It is a symbol of a silent and growing crisis that is spreading across America and developed countries. Homelessness, rampant addiction, structural injustice. All of these are links in a single chain, and we, as a society, are responsible for this tragedy. If this narrative has shaken you, show it to others right now. Talk about it, comment on it, and be the voice of those who have no place in policy-making rooms or mainstream television. Real change begins with seeing, understanding, and shouting out. If we close our eyes today and pretend there is no problem, tomorrow, Mass and Cass may take shape on our street corners.